Joining me on the line, he is from We Are Iowa Local 5. He's a sports director over there, and he is an up-and-coming podcaster, possibly. Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Schaeffer's on the line with me. What's going on, man?
Dream big, B-sox. That's what I believe. Dream big, and if it's a podcast, you know what? Let's see what we can do.
I'm not going to lie, and this is going to sound bad. Like, I love radio, don't get me wrong, but if you came to me right now and said I could make my living off doing podcasts, I'd be like, okay, let's do it.
You can. You just have to, you can't be B-sox. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you know what's funny? Quick side note, the podcast that a buddy of mine and I do on the side, it started back when I was at the other radio station, and I completely separated it from B-sox, so I go by my real name on it.
Well, that's just scary, and I don't like that. So
you know what my real name is?
Keep it up. Yeah, I do. Duh. I'm not going to say it on air because I don't want to ruin your persona.
It's Adam.
I know it is Adam. I know it's Adam Bauer Sox. Come on.
There you go. You know what's funny? You know what my traffic name is when I do traffic?
Is this going to scar me for life?
No, it's Mark Adams. It's my first and middle name just reversed. And that's okay. Enough with the whole.
I dig that.
Well, everybody in radio is like, "Oh, you got to have a different name." Blah 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 blah. Mine was just my nickname from college. So I'm 40 years old now and have to explain B-sox to people, which sucks.
Yeah, I don't think my dad ever had a fake persona. So I mean, you got him beaten that one.
You know what? On my very first, when I was interning, my very first remote I went on was with your dad, and somebody asked me if I was Maxwell Schaeffer.
Oh boy, your eyes probably lit up and were like, "Yeah, I'm Maxwell Schaeffer. What are you bringing me? Huh? What's for dinner?"
What was funny about it is after they left, I said, "No, I'm not." If I would have been thinking, I wanted to say yes, and like as they're driving away, like flip them off or something.
Oh no! Ruined his reputation. He'd never have a job again in this market.
I know, right? It's funny how the cards.
And I wouldn't be here. You could have totally just rewritten history.
No, I could never do that. All right, hey, John. We've got the NFL draft coming up on Thursday. Kind of the local angle of it. You know, Iowa State, both coming off really good years. I don't think either team, and correct me if I'm wrong, have a lot of guys that are heading to the draft, right?
Iowa's got a handful. Iowa's got more this year than Iowa State does, at least headlining wise. I think there's maybe a trio of Iowa State players that could go drafted by the end of Saturday, and Iowa could have a few sprinkled in Friday and Saturday as well. So I'd say Iowa definitely outnumbers the Cyclones in this one.
Because they had a little bit older class, correct?
Yeah, definitely an older class, and especially at some of those key positions you look at. Defensive line comes to mind with Davion Nixon and Chauncey Golston, and it's a little bit different for the Cyclones because they've got D-line as well with Jaquan Bailey, but you've also got Kene Nwangwu and Dylan Sander in the draft as well, or draft eligible. And so a little bit different position layout there for them.
It's probably going to be more the Iowa State story in 2022, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the draft class possibilities for Iowa State, Brock Purdy, Charlie Kohler, Greg Eisworth, you're looking at Linderbaum, you're looking at Breece Hall potentially deciding to go after his junior season if he wants. A couple wide receivers mixed in there. So, I mean, there's a ton of potential for Iowa State not to just have one guy drafted.
Yeah.
I mean, we could be talking about Brock Purdy as a late first-round sleeper next year.
Wow. Jonathan Schaeffer from We Are Iowa Local 5 joining me to talk about the draft. Looking back at this draft coming up on Thursday, what do you think is going to be the story from it on a local level? Who do you think has the best shot? If you're going to – I mean, it's so hard to say, yeah, I think this guy's going to go here, this guy's going to go here, because we just don't know. But if you were going to guess, what would you throw out there?
I think Chauncey Golston is going to be a late first-round sleeper. I think there's a lot of hype around him. If he's not called on Thursday, he's going to be called early on Friday in the second round. Another person to keep an eye on, in my mind, is Alaric Jackson, the offensive lineman for the Iowa Hawkeyes, who had a ton of draft hype going into last year. But then Tristan Wirfs kind of stole that show. Alaric Jackson has been just as good, and so in his college career. And so I look forward to seeing where he ends up. I think he could be a guy that really has a long career in the NFL for an offensive lineman and really makes an impact year one, year two.
Iowa is kind of sneaky with the draft. They get a lot more guys in there than people think, right?
Yeah, usually. I mean, you look back and do you remember Amani Hooker? I don't. I remember Amani Hooker as a Hawkeye. I don't remember hearing him drafted, but yeah. Here he is. He's on the Tennessee Titans making an impact, and so it's guys like that. I mean, I know Akram Wadley didn't end up on an NFL roster by the end of the season last year, but he's another guy that comes to mind. So typically, Iowa, and it's the track record of Kirk Ferentz. Kirk Ferentz is a former NFL assistant. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he's got those ties, and I'm sure those are things Matt Campbell is working within, but he's had to kind of build this from the ground up. And if you think about it, 4 years ago, all right, that's who we're going to be seeing over the next couple of years going in the draft.
Matt Campbell's got nothing to worry about right now.
No, just chasing down a national championship. I think he's more worried about that right now.
Yeah, I think he's okay right now.
He is. I mean, and I was having this conversation with someone the other day. Matt Campbell could very well be the next Bill Snyder of the Big 12. He could be a guy, or Kirk Ferentz, if we want to equate it to that, where he's content. And do I see him leaving? Probably not. Is there a point where he's maybe down the line really far? But I think he loves being at Iowa State, and we've had that talk a lot, B-sox, I know, and so I'm just kind of rehashing that. But he's going to be turning out some NFL products at Iowa State for some time to come.
I just think it's funny that we were talking about draft, and it always goes back to Campbell if we staying or leaving.
I mean, yeah, it has to. I mean, the guy going to be an NFL caliber coach at some point, and so he's got to build his repertoire and get his guys ready to be there. If he wants to prove that he can coach in the NFL, he's got to do it in the college level.
All right, you know what? Screw it. Since we're on this topic, how long do you think Kirk's got then?
I think Kirk's got a few more years left in him. It all depends on how the next couple go. He's getting up there in tenure, et cetera, but I don't think – I think it's all about finding a rejuvenation point for him. I think the last year took a big toll on him, just exhausting-wise. And so we'll see what happens over the next couple. I think he's still got a few years left in him, though I'm not too worried about Kirk Ferentz announcing a retirement after this season by any means.
All right, I want to ask you a completely just random question in regards to this, and then we'll get back to the draft.
Yep.
If you had to replace Kirk Ferentz and Matt Campbell right now, who would you pick?
If I had to replace them?
Yeah, like both of them were out of the picture for next season. Who do you replace them with?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. I'd go after Tom Manning, I think, for Iowa State, the offensive coordinator.
Okay.
Hoping that Matt doesn't retain him at wherever he is in the next job. Iowa's a little tougher. I'd have to do some deep dive in that. To be honest, I would have probably said Brian Ferentz 3 years ago, but I think that perspective changed quite a bit. I'd dive into a mid-major conference and just see what else is out there, a group of five conference, and find an up-and-comer, look someplace like a Cincinnati or Ohio, somewhere like that.
You know what? You're right on that, because I think they need to go more. I don't want to say full-blown Hayden Fry, but a guy that's younger and got a little bit more energy on the sideline and maybe, relates to the, the little things like, hey, let's do an alternate uniform more than once every 5 years, or, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where he relates to that.
Or you call Dan McCarney out of retirement for 3 seasons and let him go coach the Hawkeyes.
I don't hate that at all.
I mean, that's the most outlandish thing I could possibly throw out there. But when I said it, I'm like, that'd be kind of fun.
Jonathan Schaeffer from We Are Iowa, Local 5, joining me. We're supposed to be talking about the NFL draft. As we get closer to it on Thursday, like you said, it's probably going to be more the Iowa State show next year. Is what's his name from Iowa, the wide receiver, and I can't think of his name right off the top of my head.
Brandon Smith, Amir Smith-Marset.
That one, Amir
Those are
Marset.
the big two, yeah.
Either one of them go?
I don't know if they get drafted. I could see Smith-Marset being looked at heavily as a return guy or a special teams guy. Brandon Smith, to me, has a better wide receiver outlook just because of his physicality.
Okay.
His vertical and his speed. Not that I don't like Amir and the work he put in with Iowa State. I think Brandon Smith was the more talented wide receiver. I just think he got fewer opportunities to show it. So he's definitely the one out of those two to watch, in my opinion. And then Tyrone Tracy actually going next year, if he decides to go into the draft next year, will be a really interesting piece for the Hawkeyes in next year's draft too. And also, I don't want to just talk to Iowa and Iowa State. I've got it from a halfway decent source that there is some interest in a Grandview cornerback
Really?
or DB, not necessarily as a draftee, but an undrafted free agent, and so there is some interest from on that perspective too, where, NAIA guys do get a little bit of attention, and typically they're not drafted guys, but they do grab some eyes from the NFL.
Oh, that's cool. What's his name?
If I'm told right, I believe it's the Flowers kid
Okay.
who's a DB for them. So I mean, stud times. There's some one or two teams that are very interested in getting some better looks at him.
Okay.
Once they get into training camps and stuff like that. So
Real quick, anybody from you and I know they've had the
yeah,
weird season.
Is it Spencer Brown? I believe is his name, the offensive lineman for them. I think is his name. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been such a weird FCS year, but they've got no lineman who's got a lot of hype building around him too, and so that'll be interesting to see where he lands. I think he does get drafted.
Okay.
Probably a late Friday or early Saturday type of guy. You and I always tends to crank out one or two here or there that make it big eventually.
Yeah.
So.
No, they really do. Jonathan Schaeffer from We Are Iowa, Local 5, joining me on the line to talk about the NFL draft. We'll let you get back to it, and we'll have all your social links at the bottom of the page. Okay, man?
Appreciate it, B-sox, or Adam Bauer socks, as you like to be called.
Hey, how about you do some, you actually live your dream and make that podcast a thing?
All righty, fine. Deal.
So we could come on and I can talk to you about just nonsense for 30 minutes.
I mean, that's what we do every day.
All right, John, you take it easy.
Have a good one.